Nigerian Leadership Series. God bless you indeed.
Amen. Thank you very much, Pastor Itwa. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for your invitation to me. I'm really delighted to participate in this series. God bless you too.
Thank you. Where in the world are you speaking from today?
I'm in Abuja, actually. I came in from Lagos, oops, to Abuja today. The lights in the room just went off, but can you still see me?
We can see you.
Okay.
The glory of God is
fine.
radiating around you.
That's fine then. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. So we're talking today about leadership and national development. And I have also with me our team, Pastor Sonia Enebi, the Vice Chair of ALG, and also Jumoke Akintelo, our second Vice Chair. And they will be co-hosting today with me at some stage on this program. Let me ask you, you spent 30 years in the university, 30 years in the university. I don't know what you were lecturing, but I know you had French language and linguistics. And then after 30 years, you left and went into politics. What aspects of politics did you go into? Why did you spend 30 years in university? Why did you go into politics?
Okay, well, I spent 30 years in the university because I felt that was my primary calling, to be an academic, to train the young people of Nigeria, to give them the kind of quality training that I myself had received, but, from like the beginning of the 80s, mid 80s, things started going wrong. What was going on, what was happening in the society began to affect the universities too. And I started seeing just quite a lot of decay around me. So I thought about it, and it occurred to me that it's politicians who determine the quality of life of the citizens. And unfortunately, many, let's say, quote unquote, decent people did not really feel like venturing into politics, all that talk about being a dirty game and things like that. And if you didn't want to get yourself dirty, then, you took your distance from politics. But when I recognized that it was politicians who determined the quality of our lives, then I thought, oh, we are wrong to leave politics to, people who really have no clear intentions to do us good. That was when I said, well, if something is needed to be done, why not you? At least be a part of it. That was how come I left the university and decided to go into politics.
So which party did you join first? And then how did you end up at the KOWA party?
KOWA party was my first choice. I didn't end up there. I joined KOWA party. I knew I did not want to go into those big established parties that had, developed a culture, of godfatherism, corruption, all of that. I did not feel attracted to them. So I asked around, and actually it was my husband who went to a meeting, and somebody informed him that there was a new party. I believe he was talking to the person that, oh, I was interested in politics and things like that. So the person told him about this KOWA party that had just been formed, by technocrats, professionals, and so on. So I checked it out and I liked what I saw. And that was how I became a member of KOWA party.
Okay, then how did you then become their presidential candidate, and what has happened to KOWA party? Because they seem to have gone a bit quiet.
Oh, okay. Yes. I became the presidential candidate by first of all becoming the public relations officer of the party. When I joined, they were just about to have elections into the executive committee. And I was told, oh, Prof, you know, you shouldn't just be a bench warmer and so on, try and see what role you could play. You know, so I vied for the position of publicity secretary or PRO of the party, and I was elected. You know, so I served in that capacity until it was time for the elections, and I felt led to run. And so I contested and was chosen to be the candidate of the party in the 2015 presidential elections. KOWA party now is one of the deregistered parties, and we are in court about it, because what INEC says is that once you do not have an elected person, then you cannot continue to be a political party. Personally, I don't feel that is right, because INEC doesn't give you money to run your party. So, you know, I don't know why that is so. However, what also happened is that we had a councillor in Imo State, but then the governor dissolved the entire, you know, house, you know, so all the councillors were let go of, and that meant that we lost that seat that we had won, and that affected several parties, but you know, like I said, we are contesting it in court. But you know how things go with Nigerian courts, very, very slowly. So that's why the party is quiet now.
Okay, so what are you doing politically now? And are you having regular and consistent political engagement, or you are on some kind of...
Politically now, well, I'm a member of the Peter Obidati campaign organization. I am the director of international relations, you know, and also supervise everything that has to do with the diaspora. So I'm doing that. I'm currently actually speaking from the Obidati campaign office in Abuja right now. That's where I am. And I am also a member of the Fix Politics initiative, started just over 2 years ago by Dr. Obi Ezekwesili. And I am a co-chair of one of the 3 work study groups, we call them WSGs, work study groups of the Fix Politics initiative. One group looks at, you know, the citizens as voters and so on. Another group looks at, you know, the politicians, the leadership. And then a third group looks at the instruments of governance, our constitution, electoral law. So I am a co-chair of that third group, you know, looking at the instruments of governance.
Okay, how would Fix Politics, just by way of interest, evaluate itself, and how will it evaluate its impact, and what's the end goal of Fix Politics?
Well, Fix Politics in 2 years has done an incredible amount of work. what we call our flagship program is our School of Policy, Politics, and Governance, SPPG. And we have already graduated 2 sets of students. They go through a 10-month program, and very intensive, giving them lectures. The lecturers are drawn from all around the world, and the students are therefore empowered with the knowledge they need in terms of governance and politics and policy. And what has happened is that we have several of our students now running for office. Several of the students who have graduated from our school are currently running for office. So we can begin to look forward to a different kind of political class, when people who know what politics is about, policy making, service delivery, the role of the citizen, and so on. When people who are knowledgeable about those things begin to be the ones who are elected into public office, you can imagine that things will begin to change in terms of the quality of leadership that we're going to have in our country.
Okay, we're looking really today at the subject of leadership and national development. I don't know what your thoughts are on leadership and national development generally, and then specifically to our situation in Nigeria. And where is Nigeria? How are we where we are? How did we get there? And so on and so forth. What are your thoughts on leadership and national development?
I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation. So let me just go ahead and make my presentation, so I'm not just speaking off head. I will share my screen now and go through my presentation. I was told I could take like 20-25 minutes for the presentation. Is that fine by you?
I think if you could shorten it to about 10 or 15.
10.
Yeah. So we would like to engage you more and ask a few more questions, but go ahead anyway.
Let me go ahead. Maybe we'll strike a compromise with 15. Well, I don't know how. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So, and so that's my screen. Right. So some of the objectives that I thought we could give ourselves is just to have a reflection on leadership and development in general. In particular, I'd like to look at an example of good leadership and identify some key principles from that example. Identify some reforms that we need to end this blight upon our nation's reputation of bad leadership. And then for us all to acknowledge our individual responsibility in bringing about the change that we so much desire. So the example is a king in the Bible, 1 Chronicles 14, 3-12. I'm not going to read it. You can go and read later. But there was this king named Asa. Now there's a caveat. Let me say it right away. The verses that I have chosen, verses 3-12, present Asa in a very good light as a good leader. But as human beings go, we don't always do the right at all times. So he went ahead later and did some not quite proper things. But let's consider from the verses that I have chosen. One, he did what was, quote, good and right in God's sight. He commanded the people to seek God, keep the law and commandments of God, I guess keep the laws in general. As a result, the land had rest, had peace. Now, what did he do with the years of peace? He didn't waste them. He turned them into development and prosperity. He went ahead and cast a vision before his people. He communicated with them. He said, let us build towns, let us build walls, and so on. Then he raised an army in a time of peace. So he wasn't taking anything for granted. And he took decisive action in the face of a challenge. Because what happened to him was that Ethiopians came. Maybe they've heard about, this place that was becoming quite prosperous and so on. Oh, let's go and attack it. Let's go and raid them. Now he had an army, but his army they were not as numerous as the army of the Ethiopians that came against him. But he didn't immediately start whining. He set his army in battle array. So he took decisive action in the face of a challenge. And it was after he had done his bit that he then cried out to God and said, God, you have to help us in this thing. Now, so I can see a few principles of leadership in that. One, personal example, the importance of personal example, doing what is good and right. It's an inspirational thing. It inspires others to follow that example. And I believe it's important for both public and private life. And then just doing what's good and right. We are going to look at these things more. That it results in peace. We would have more peace in the land if people do what is good and right. Then there was respect for the law. He commanded people, look, keep the law. Keep the law. Then there was inclusive and proactive vision casting. He told his people, let us do this together. Let's build cities. Let's, wall them and so on. Let's build an army. And they went ahead and did those things. And then there was decisiveness in taking action. They acted first. So it's like act first, even if you are still going to ask for help. Now let's look at those four principles. So it's a question of morality, doing what is good and right. And it's, so I just put this this quotation by Martin Luther King there. It says, the time is always right to do what is right. The basic assumption is that you know that something is right and you are committed to doing it. Or at the very least, you seek to know what's the right thing to do. And once you know, then you will go ahead and do. Also, an assumption that you are not better, you are not special as a leader. You are not entitled. That there must be fairness, justice, and equity for all. That what is good for one is good for all. All of this conviction must then be translated into action. So you should be able to ask yourselves about, are my citizens living in security or insecurity? These 20 million children that are out of school, what am I going to do about them? Is it right? Is it good to spend 80% of our nation's resources on, 20% of the population, or maybe even less, and so on? These are consequences of, knowing what is good and right and going ahead to do it. Then the second point is about law and order. This Asa told his people, keep the law. And it is something that must be held as sacrosanct by leaders, that everybody must keep the law. Actions that any one of us takes must have consequences. Otherwise, it's chaos, which is what we have right now. Everybody behaving as they please. And then vision. It's about imagining a possible world, which is as of now non-existent. And this is what we need to drive in innovation. Now, when you hear people saying their vision is to build a road from this place to that place, to construct a bridge or whatever, that's no vision. I mean, you cannot be giving us as vision something that is already, maybe has been in existence for centuries. People have been constructing roads, building hospitals, schools, and things like that. Now we should be able to imagine big things. That's what, being visionary is about. So for instance, going to the moon, that was a real vision, going out of this world. So I am looking for leaders who would, challenge us to think. The phrase is so bandied about, outside of the box. It's like, even destroy the box. There's no box. Just let your imagination, run free, and let's see what limits to our innovative nature, to our creative abilities we can have. Then the fourth thing is that you must exert yourself first. We cannot continue to outsource, the solutions, finding solutions to our problems as a first resort. Do something first. Deploy the resources that you have. Each time I see our governors surrounded by Chinese people, or foreigners all over the place, I keep wondering, are there not Nigerians who are capable of finding solutions to these issues? So we must stop this outsourcing, of our of the solutions to our challenges. We must tell ourselves we can do this, and indeed we can. But sure, everybody needs help. There are situations that maybe require us to seek help or partnership, but then we do not go to the negotiating table with a beggar's bowl in our hands and go like, oh, we are these totally helpless people. Then the other side is about national development. And it's one of the definitions I found is the capacity, ability of a nation to enhance its citizens' standard of living. And this is an indicator of the nation's level of development. And it is not only in terms of material things and so on, but that is, of course, so basic, so fundamental. If we cannot provide water, electricity, and so on, when will we start dreaming about, going to the moon? So this is so important. So how is this capacity measured? Usually by the services that are provided to the people by the leaders. Unfortunately, the leadership that we have witnessed in recent times, and maybe even under both military and civilian leaders, there's a shocking lack of competence, capacity, and character. Ability to do something successfully and efficiently. How many abandoned projects do we have around the country? there's a hospital in Ikiri. I don't think it was ever used since it was completed. And it's just overgrown with weeds. There are houses built by government that were never allocated. And now they've fallen into ruins. You know, the capacity is the power to understand and perform. And then the character, the mental and moral qualities of the person. Why must we have people who are lacking, who are so deficient in these qualities being inflicted upon us? But maybe we are inflicting them upon ourselves. And that is the challenge, you know, that we have before us. I just have some quotes of what our so-called leaders have said in times past. Our problem is not money, but how to spend it. How do you say that? Then somebody said, I'm the only one whom the cap fits. And then another leader who says, your duty is to offer me advice, but I may choose not to listen. I mean, this arrogance or whatever, you know, does not make good leadership. So we have leaders who have been described as clueless, arrogant, nepotistic, bigoted, visionless, and so on and so forth. I don't need to go into this one. We all know about it, the problems we are faced with every single day in the nation. Now, coming to where we are right now. You know, I like to say that we are standing at a momentous moment. You know, there's another moment in our history. I keep thinking that we may have wasted our significant moments. The end of the Civil War was a significant moment for Nigeria, but we failed to emerge a visionary, transformational leader to heal the deep wounds that the war created and forge a national identity. We are still, you know, looking for that now. The return to civilian rule after years of military rule was also a significant moment for us. And then we still failed to emerge a leader with a vision of a fresh start, doing things in a different manner. Now, we're standing at another important moment for Nigeria. Everywhere you turn, people are saying this is a decisive moment for Nigeria and so on. We've been through a protracted state of insecurity in the country. You know, we have former generals of the army unable, they have failed to deliver the country from armed groups, Boko Haram, the herdsmen, the bandits, and so on. So what happens now? And then everybody is looking up to Nigeria to take a stand, to stabilize, you know, just like Nelson Mandela said. He says the world will never respect Africa until Nigeria earns that respect. The Black people of the world are looking up to Nigeria to be a source of pride and confidence, and every Nigerian citizen should be made to understand this. That is why we should not go into these elections that are coming up with a sense of, oh, the usual thing, the usual political class will continue. It's not right. It's not good. It's not proper. So luckily, there seems to be a tide rising. You know, the possibility of a different kind of leader has emerged. You know, and apparently, more Nigerians, especially our young people, they are desirous of a country that they can be proud of. They want to be able to be proud of their leaders, not leaders who will bring us shame, you know, either at home or when they go to represent us abroad. So it's going to be about competence and capacity and character. And we should take this seriously. So we should ask ourselves, what side of history do we want to be on? Individually, what side of history do I want to be on? Because the signs of this moment are the following. There's a demand for inclusiveness. That you can't go on behaving as if this country belongs to just a select group, that it should work only for a select group. That's not on anymore. Young people, women, people living with disabilities, people in IDP camps, and so on. Everybody's saying, see, this country belongs to all of us. Like Aisha Yesufu says, nobody is more Nigerian than any other Nigerian. Then there is this increased awareness of the power of the citizen. The Fixed Politics Initiative recently activated the Office of the Citizen. It's the highest office in the land. And we see that reflected in this very vibrant campaign for people to get their PVCs. But having gotten those PVCs, who are we going to use it to vote for? And then there's a strong push for fairness, for justice. You know, that was what the NSAS protests were about. People who have felt left out, you know, from the scheme of things, they're saying, no, we can't have this anymore. So there are urgent reforms that are needed in our political structure, in our social, in the society, social situation, the security, the services, the economy, and then the moral and ethical area. We often neglect that when it comes to politics. It's like, you know, politics is dirty in and of itself, you know, intrinsically. But no, it's not. It's people who are morally bankrupt who make politics a dirty game. And our leadership evolution so far, you know, has been that political parties have been, you know, because those are the gatekeepers, you have to go, you know, our leaders are selected, are elected through the political parties, you know, and they are characterized by, you know, godfatherism, sectional and personal interests, you know, I'm looking for the right adjective for just the role that, the nauseating role that money plays in our politics, you know, for vote buying, for attacking your opponents and so on, the violence that ensues. You know, so it's election time again. And the question to us is, who are we going to choose? Who am I going to choose? Who will I choose? I think these are some of my thoughts on the situation in the country right now. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I hope I didn't spend too much time. Thank you.
No, you didn't spend too much time, not at all, but it was quite engaging. So thank you very much for taking the time and trouble for that presentation. One of the words that you used was that Nigerians failed in 19, well, maybe even in 19, I don't know what you think about the leadership in 1960, but then definitely after the Civil War in 1970, Nigerians failed to emerge a nationalistic leader. And then at the start of 1979, maybe we failed again to emerge a nationalistic leader. 1999, a little bit questionable as to whether the gentleman who emerged was truly nationalistic or not. But at least why in 1979 and after the Civil War, why was that failure in emerging a nationalistic leader? Why did Nigerians settle for the leadership that they have? The second question is, what really can we do as Nigerians, or what should the Nigerian nation be doing to really get the right kind of leadership that it wants?
Thank you very much. This is a question that has agitated many minds, I'm sure. How do nations choose the right leaders? You know, is it just a matter of luck, or is there something definite, deliberate that can be done? You know, I have a feeling that one of the failures we have is our lack of, we don't hold the kind of engaging conversations that we need to hold about the things that are going on in our country. It's like we are afraid. We are afraid to touch issues that we characterize as, oh, that would be too sensitive, or, you know, because we are different ethnic groups and so on and so forth, you know, and we don't come out clearly to discuss these matters. So we are constantly repressing the issues that we should be talking about, wishing that, you know, wishing them away, hoping that they would in and of themselves disappear. You know, and I believe that it is important for us to do so. So I think, you know, those conferences, national conferences, and so on that we have organized over the years, I wonder whether, you know, I've never been a part of any of them, but it seems as if, you know, the different groups go there with their agenda. You know, this is what we want to get for our people. Not necessarily the orientation of how are we going to be able to work together? How are we going to together solve the problems that confront us? That's my thinking, that we are not free to discuss our issues openly.
We're not free. Why are we not free? And then looking at the political landscape as we are now, I know you say you're a member of the Obidachi group or movement. How do you think the politics is going to play out this time around?
How do I think the politics is going to play out?
Yeah, who do you think is going to win the election?
You pastors, you are the ones who prophesy. Me, I'm not a pastor.
No, this one is not prophecy. This one is political analysis and evaluation of the system.
You know, one thing I hesitate to do is to predict such things. Let me say, for instance, I was in the US in 2018 when Hillary Clinton was running against President Trump, 18 or 16. Anyway, you know, so we were also sure that Hillary Clinton was going to win. And well, I mean, she did win in terms of numbers, but it so turned out the United States has this system of electoral college and so on and so forth that prevented her from, you know, being declared the winner. You see, you don't know that the time is right for something until it actually happens. One senses that we are about to enter a new era in our political experience as a country. And I believe that, in fact, already we can pinpoint some important changes that have taken place already because of the entrance into the field of a veritable third force. That at least this time around, we are not just talking two parties anymore. I think that is already a gain for us. How far it will go, I'm not able to predict. Of course, I'm very, very hopeful and praying that that third force will make the difference.
Thank you very much. Pastor Sonny is on the platform. I don't know if he has any questions or anything he wants to add or subtract. Sonny?
Yeah, thank you very much, Pastor Tua. Good evening, Prof, and welcome to—
Good evening, sir.
You said you were speaking from the office of Labour Party.
Yes, sir.
Are you a member of Labour Party?
I said I'm speaking from the office of the Obi Dati campaign.
Okay, so you are a supporter of the Obi Dati campaign?
Obi Dati campaign office.
Okay, are you supporting them? I just want to establish whether you have taken a side or you just went there to speak from there.
I believe that I mentioned that I am on the campaign team. I am the director of international relations.
Okay, all right. Okay.
For the Obi Dati campaign organization.
Okay. All right. The reason why I was asking was Pastor was asking you who you predict to win. Obviously, it will be Obi Dati that you will want to win.
No, but Sonny,
that's different from prediction.
Yeah, she didn't make a prediction. She says that she would love Obi Dati to make a difference, but she cannot predict who will win. I think she's been realistic and practical, you know. About that, and that's a fair comment.
That's a fair comment. That's a fair comment.
Yeah, it's in the purview of you pastors to be, you know.
And she also wanted me to predict.
No, pastors don't predict. Pastors prophesy. But let's.
That was the word I used, actually, prophesy.
Okay, all right, great. I want to ask you, when you were a candidate, you know, what you learned, you know, you were a presidential candidate, because we believe that, thank God we have a third force now that is giving the two major parties a run. We have always said it that the leadership recruitment process is always the issue. We leave it too late. The parties come up with the candidates that we don't have a hand in choosing, and then we are left to choose between the devil and the deep blue sea. But because we now have at least a third or a fourth choice in this particular circle, it's looking a bit better. So the question really is, what do you think about the initial recruitment process? How do people engage at that level so that the candidates that come out of the parties are equally as credible, so people are not left with whatever the party throws at them?
Yeah, I believe that's the fundamental changes we need to see. In my own party, KOWA party, we did not have a system of delegates. You could say that maybe that was because we were a much smaller party or whatever, but everybody voted. Every member of the party had the right to vote who the candidates would be. You know, so I believe that we should look for greater democratization of the whole system. We saw how much money was involved in buying over those delegates and so on. Yes, I see one of our former KOWA members saying we ran direct, primaries and did e-voting. I was in a meeting earlier today. That's why I came to Abuja, where I was saying we should we should introduce even greater technology, more technology into our electoral process. We did e-voting in KOWA wherever you are on the face, of the earth. Once you are a member, you are able to vote from anywhere. So there must be that will to sanitize the whole process. I believe that many of our politicians love it the way things are, because if you keep the people poor and uninformed, you can then use them easily when the time comes. Just recruit, the number you want, give them some money, ask them to go and cause trouble wherever. And what do they have to lose? So those are the challenges I believe that we have.
Okay, all right. So your recommendation would be that there should be more inclusiveness of every member of the party.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We see a couple of hands. Pastor, we want to take the questions now. Jumoke?
Sorry, may I ask if you can still see my face, or whether I should try and face the light?
No, we can see your face.
That's fine, thank you.
It's okay, we can see your face. If Jumoke doesn't have a question, we'll go ahead to engage the audience. They will have some questions for you. So the way we normally take it is we may take 2 or 4 people together. Can you note it so that you don't miss out any of the questions?
All right.
Okay. Pastor Sonny, I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead, Jumoke.
Thank you, Prof, for your presentation. My first question is on diaspora. I understand that you are the ambassador for Obidati Diaspora Coordination. And as you know, the diaspora will contribute greatly to the economic development of Nigeria, but we cannot vote. Mm-hmm. And how would you support, how would you go about maybe developing a policy that would advocate for diaspora voting as part of inclusion? You talked about electronic voting for your party. And so if you could just speak a little bit about that, that's something that we've been agitating for years, knowing that the diaspora contribution is significant. So please speak a little bit about that. And then I have a part 2 question too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, ever before I became a member of the Obidati team, as a member and a co-chair of, the electoral reforms and constitutional issues group of Fixed Politics Initiative, which I have talked about here, we have been agitating. It's one of our demands to the National Assembly that the diaspora, Nigerians in the diaspora, should be able to vote. They contribute so much, to the Nigerian economy. And if we have, e-voting, then what would keep Nigerians in the diaspora from voting? It might be argued that you are not really on ground and things like that, but you are doing a great deal for the country. So that is something I'm quite passionate about personally. And it is an area that we're, it's still on, we're still working on it. So whichever government comes into power next May, by God's grace, it's one of the requests that will still go before that government.
Thank you. And my second question is picking up on what you said about whether we missed the opportunity after the war in the 60s. How would we go about reconciling the nation and unifying Nigeria for one common purpose? Because I think that's one of the challenges that we have in the current political landscape. So if you could speak a little bit about that, just that reconciliation and reunification of Nigeria. Thank you.
Well, that was why I started with doing what is good and right. You know, and interestingly, when Mr. Peter Obi spoke at Chatham House, a similar question was asked, but maybe it was more like, you know, how would you be able to influence policy or something like that if you do not have enough people from your party in the National Assembly and things. The power of a leader that does right is incredible, you know, and I think that is why this is so important, that if you as the leader, you are known to do that which is right, that which is just and fair by everybody. You are not, you know, being nepotistic. You are not surrounding yourselves only with either members of your family or of your clan, your friends, and so on. If there is really clarity, transparency, that this person is operating in a way that is fair and just, I tell you, I think we'll almost be home dry.
Thank you, ma.
Let's take questions from the platform, if we don't mind. Quite a few hands are up. Bayo Balogun, Afolabi Ajidown, and something Jonathan. Can you please ask your questions very quickly and have Professor Sonaiya respond? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, EA. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So my name is EA Jonathan Ichave. I was your guest a few weeks ago on this program, and I'm running for House of Reps in Benue State. I think mine is more a question in terms of just asking Prof, how can we encourage more people to join the party? You know, because I'm a member of the party system, or a part of the party system now, and this determines the quality of leaders. And the truth of the matter is that a lot of the leadership decisions made are very challenging. So for me, how do we encourage more people to join the party? You successfully recruited me into KOWA party many years ago, or got me to join KOWA party many years ago, or inspired me to. But I'm just wondering, how can we really gain that traction? So we have people who have values, because a lot of our parties are just full of people who they do want to see some kind of change, but a lot of the time they don't have the capacity. So I've asked the question, so that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay. I'll just note the questions for now, really.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
just look there.
Okay.
And Bayo was the next, Mr. Bayo Balogun.
Yes. Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma. Florette, sir.
Floria, thank you for last time.
Yes, sir. It was nice seeing you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, yeah. So, ma, I would just really say that I enjoyed your presentation. It was like it's a melodious music to my ears. So I really enjoyed it and quite engaging. Thank you, ma. So my question is about the Obidati campaign team. So I would like to know if the campaign team has a strategy for monitoring election, especially during voting at the places that we have the ungoverned spaces. Let me put it that way. The places where we have limited government presence, especially in the rural areas, in the north and other areas. How do they ensure that those parts are not being rigged by these established parties? And secondly, I would like to know if there is a way we can reach the Obidati campaign team, maybe via email or phone number for, suggestions or contributions that we may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there more questions?
Jumoke, who is
I
next?
sit down.
One more, Afolabi.
Good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year once again. 2 quick questions. The first one is, how do you want to get the youths out on election day to go and vote, no matter which party they're voting for? I mean, I've heard Pastor, in fact, earlier on, I heard Pastor being interviewed, and he said something which resonated and touched me very much, which is just go out and vote. Doesn't matter who the party you vote for, even if you don't think they're going to win, your vote is not wasted. To educate the youth very much and let them know that whoever they vote for, their vote is not wasted. And the second question I have is, what would you like to see if it's the Obidati team that comes in and wins after the May 29, 2023? What would you like to see the changes of any party within the first 100 days of them being in power as the new government? Thank you.
All right. Okay. Do I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. So EA is asking how we can encourage more people to join the political parties. I have a feeling that this might improve after this current session, can call it that, of elections and campaigning and things like that. I believe that a lot of people are watching now to see whether this movement that seems to be sweeping the country, whether it's going to be for real or not. Over the years, people have learned to distance themselves from political parties and, in fact, political activity, not even go out. Many don't even go out and vote. I mean, we know the really dismal numbers that we have on election days. People being elected with 15% of the number of registered voters and things like that. So my thinking is that we should give this time. I'm not sure there's going to be a groundswell of people going to register for into political parties this time around. In any case, it's rather late now. But many will vote, I believe. Many will vote. But in terms of being members of political parties, I would give that the next season of elections. Thank you very much, Bayo Balogun. You're asking me to talk about the Obidati campaign in terms of monitoring. I hesitate because I am not a spokesperson, all right, for the Obidati campaign organization. I told you what my own area is. So I would hesitate to say these are the strategies we have. I might not even be aware because I don't have a complete overview of what's going on in every single area of the campaign organization. But in terms of how to reach the campaign team, please go online please check the website. We have contacts there. So please kindly just go online and check the Obidati campaign website. And for the third question by Mr. Afolabi, thank you again. How to get the news out on election day for people to go out and vote. Oh, I tell you, our civil society organizations are doing an incredible job, a fantastic job already. They are educating the people, sensitizing people, and so on. And I believe that you know, the people are being reached. The parties also, of course, are doing their bit. And indeed, that's also part of what those campaigns are about, to make the people aware that elections are coming up. These are the candidates that are being put forward. And what would I like to see within the first 100 days of any government that comes into power? I'd like to see a seriousness about governance. One of the very sad things that happened, I think, with the current administration, which began in 2015, was that it took 6 months to elect, or no, not to elect, to name ministers. I mean, how does that convey to people that you are serious about governance, that you've been thinking about it, that you've been, you know, planning towards it, and so on? You know, so I'd like to see a seriousness about governance issues and a clear direction for the country. I'd like to see a leader who has, you know, identified some clear areas of intervention, and who by 100 days is already beginning to make impact in those areas, in mopping up the kids that are on the streets, the out of school children, and so on, in reducing the issue of queues. In fact, I don't want to see a reduction. I want to see a disappearance, you know, because I find it really, really sad that, you know, we won't be queuing for petrol. So just some, maybe 3-4 areas that show seriousness and a clear idea of what to do.
Thank you. So we have the next three, Mr. Alex Arije, and please go ahead. And then we have O Ajayi and Sir Realty.
Good afternoon over there. Good evening, I don't know. But Professor, good evening. Thank you very much. It's very interesting, and I love what you have seen.
Sorry, seems to have hung.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please, Mr. Alex.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, ma. Thank you, ma. Yeah, I have a question in regards to those, the governance in the country, because look like those governors, not all of them do, but most of them, they are very, very corrupt. Instead of, do the right thing, I think they know exactly what they are doing, stealing the money. How can we, or how can the government or federal government tackle that sources, such kind of that corruption among them? Because you look at that, they won't really run the country. Because we see what's going on, and they are not cooperating with the federal government. in time of this, what do you call it, local government issues, they just want to do what they want to do and they will get away with it. So what do you think about that? Thank you very much.
Sorry, somebody said, could I turn on the lights where I am? I think somebody mistakenly put off the lights now from outside. So let me just put on the lights again so that my face will show. Thank you. This room. Okay, thank you. All right, sorry about that.
Yes. So we have two more hands up. Ajayi, we've asked you to unmute. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. And then Sarilty. Okay. Sarilty, go ahead and ask your question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Prof, for the extensive lecture, sir. All of that. But my question is just going to be direct to the voting process. Subsequent reports we've read about the election in Lagos State, where the areas that are more dominant of the Igbo race, we get reports that there is violence, ballot balls are snatched, and all is mostly found in the Igbo part of Lagos. So what is the Labour Party doing to help stop that? Because I think that will constitute the bunk vote of the Obi Dati vote. So,
sorry, which part of Lagos did you say had the problem?
No, previous election, we read report that talks just try to capture the ballot boxes in the Igbo-dominated part of Lagos. So,
where there are many Igbos.
Yeah, and that seems to be where the vote of Peter Obi will be coming from more. So, what's the PCC doing about it to address that just before the election, which is less than some weeks from now?
Okay. Is Ajayi able to ask?
We've asked him to unmute, so I think we're going to take the next person, who is another Ajayi. I'm asking you to unmute. Please unmute yourself and ask question.
It's not good. Oh, okay. So I got it now. Thank you very much for your, am I echoing? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. You've talked a lot on leadership. My question now is, does the electorate have a role to play? And if so, have they been playing it? If not, why have they not been able to play the role in politics apart from voting?
All right. Thank you very much, and good evening. Hello, Sister Palapo. Nice to see you. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. First, Alex Arije, we talk about governors corrupt, they're not cooperating with the federal government. We have a problem in terms of holding our leaders accountable in general, you know, I think this is part of the whole transformation that we need, you know, because the people behave towards governors and leaders in general in a manner that is so subservient. You know, it's not like we are the ones who put you there and you have to be accountable to us. You know, people are begging the governors to do this and that. I always squirm when I hear people, they're reporting something and they say the president has graciously accepted or agreed, or the governor has graciously. What's gracious about this? I mean, you were elected, for goodness sake, to work for us, and you are being paid, and paid well too, by the way. So the whole attitude has to change. And I think that ties up with the point, the question that was asked by Sister Polabo, the last question about the role of the citizens. And that is what we have been trying to do in fixed politics. I mentioned that recently we activated what we call the office of the citizen. The citizens have to know that the leaders must be held accountable, that they have the right to check them, you know, to call them to order, not to fall down before them as if they were some masters or demigods and so on. So I think there's this whole change in our attitude towards leadership that we need to have. I would like to mention here that Fixed Politics Initiative has been holding some town hall meetings on in collaboration with AIT. We've held 2 already. Now we're going to hold a 3rd one on the 9th of February, God willing. And the topic for that engagement, that conversation that day will be office of the citizen, the role of the citizens as the electorate. You know, so you elect people, but it's beyond voting. That's I believe what you are trying to say. It's beyond voting. It's voting people into power and learning to hold them accountable. And this is a whole process that we have to engage our citizens in, because we are still taking politicians like traditional rulers, almost whom you don't question. You know, like in Yoruba, we constantly say, you know, Kabiesi is the one that you do not ask any questions. That doesn't go in terms of politics. And then Sir Reality, who was wondering what the Obidati campaign would do to ensure that the Igbos have a right to vote. The Igbo population of Lagos will be able to vote. I believe that there are many people on ground who are working in those areas. And if they sense that things might go wrong, definitely the police will be contacted about that. I'm sure the campaign team is not taking things for granted, you know, but we are very hopeful that we Nigerians will be able to give ourselves, you know, violence-free elections. What's the point? There's no need to kill and destroy the whole system and so on. It's not helping us, so I believe all of us can also publicize this point of view. Let's not fight over elections. Not necessary. Thank you.
Okay, let's have the next round of questions. Samuel Jada, Alex Ajibade, long time, and Otumba Bimbashiru, please. Let's have your questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Prof, good morning from here. You said once people have been elected to office, they ought to give accountability. In this platform, some months ago, the presidential candidate of Labour Party came here. I asked him a question that he said, and he do say so, that he will never probe the past administrators or the past leaders or those that have looted our treasury. And he blankly replied me that yes, he still remain on that. That what is the essence of leaving the shop open and going after a thief? So I was so much concerned that how can we have justice in this country and we want to have peace? So what do you think to such statement, ma, since you are part of the campaign of Obidati? Because I, as a citizen, I'm very, very concerned about such response of somebody that we believe he will want to make a country better than the way it is. Thank you, ma.
Thank you. Noted.
Alex.
Yeah,
Alex,
good evening, man. Yeah, good evening, man. Thanks. Actually, it's taking some time. My question, please, is this: what vision do we have, and how long do we think it will take us before we have a female governor or vice president or president in this country called Nigeria? That is one. Number two, what are actually the impediments to women contesting for election in this country? Most even from the local level, councillorship, you could see that they are the ones that are our women leaders. They are the majority when it comes going around. But to come out to vote, is it cultural? Is it fear? Is it money? What do you think is responsible for this, man? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a third one coming?
Yeah.
Yes.
Otumba.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I just want to clear up something. I think the issue of prophet or pastors or anything, the prophets are the ones causing problems in this country. They are the ones telling every candidate that they will win election, and that's why we're having all these problems. So I think we should just leave them apart on this issue. The other issue I just want to point out is the issue, and I like the way you presented the issue of poverty, that politicians probably strategize to impoverish all our people so that when the election comes, every 4 years, we give them money. And that is the reason why people cannot vote their conscience. I remember the president now telling people that you should vote, go out there and vote according to your conscience. And I think the problem we have in this country now is that we should get to a level whereby we get people back on track, because create jobs for our people so that the level of poverty will be reduced drastically. With that, people will vote for the right people will be there and their conscience. And the other point I just want to point out is that doing what is good and right, both in public and private life, and you wrote peace. I think, to me, it's more of integrity, because the level at which we are in this country is that people, they lack integrity, and then when they come to a place like this, they are canvassing for votes, they will tell you all sorts of things, but when they get there, they do something else. So, Prof, I'm not sure. Even if you get in there as the president of Nigeria, and you are the only one that is not corrupt, and the people around you are corrupt, so how do you solve that problem? That's actually one of the problems we have in this country. How do we solve that problem? Because, some people said, oh, they wanted to vote. I'm actually conflicted. I belong to a party, so that's why I can't say much, but I'm being honest here. But the point is that they say somebody is not corrupt, but all the people around him, they are more like hand robbers. So how do we resolve that problem? That is one of the issues that I'm just mentioning. Thank you very much, Prof.
All right, thank you so much for this set of questions. Mr. Samuel Dada, about should people be probed? I don't know how Mr. Obi presented his case to you. Maybe it was about him setting up, panels to probe people or whatever. And maybe he said he wouldn't want to engage in that. I believe that this is an issue for the police. If people have committed offenses, the police should go after them. We even have other agencies. We have the EFCC, we have ICPC, and so on and so forth. What I would like to see is for people who have evidence to present them against those who may have looted at Treasury or brought us to harm in any way, and have the law take its course against them. So I don't know whether it is the duty of the sitting, maybe a new governor or president, to go after the former one, but let the law have its course, take its course. If people have done wrong, let them be held accountable for the wrong that they have done. That is how I would say it. Mr. Alex.
Hello, ma. Hello, ma.
Yes, yeah.
The question was, like, example now, during the Jonathan's era, we just got to know that within 3 years, there were some trillions of dollars of crude oil that was not deposited in the federal account. And this morning now, if Obi become the president, the question is, will he probe the past administration? Like Atiku Abubakar in their own days, 16 billion for energy, nothing to write home about. Will your government probe such administration?
I am not in government. I'm sorry. I cannot speak. I can't speak for him. I have explained what my own, approach would be. I would want everybody who has wronged this nation, because that stealing of our resources has led to loss of lives for many people. For me, people have to give an account. People have to give an account.
Thank you.
So that's what how I would put it. Alex Ajibade wanted to know how long. That's another case of maybe foretelling. I don't know how long. I have no idea. America still does not have a female president. Luckily, the last time they got a female vice president, so we have a female vice president. I don't know how to predict such things. I just don't. Maybe it's a quality or a failing in my part. I can't say, how long it will take us, to get a female governor or a female president. Maybe the way I can say it is when we Nigerians decide that it is time. Of course, there are things in the society that we can see, indications why women continue, to not be reckoned with in general. There's a lot of that still happening. How many men would have supported me like my husband did? many would hold on tight to their wives. No, I cannot agree for you to go out there, and so on and so forth. You know, so if everybody holds on tight to their wives, you know, which woman is then going to go out and become our president or our governor? You know, so it's something that each of us must determine to promote in concrete terms. When women are truly given that space, people say you don't have to be given, you have to take it. Yes, but you are not the one who votes for yourself. You know, people have to vote for you. So that would be my own response. For Mr. Bimbola Ashiru, most of what you said, comments, not questions as such. You talk about, you know, not bothering with prophets and so on. That's fine. That we have to reduce poverty. I can't agree with you more on that. And that, you know, doing what is good and right as an individual, how much of an impact can you have if you are surrounded by a whole bunch of thieves? I think that's a challenge, definitely. But honestly, I'm still convinced that one person can make a difference, might not be able to make as much of a difference as if there were what we call that, you know, if there's a significant number, a critical mass. That was what I was looking for. But we have to begin somewhere. That's the point that I would always like to make. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chairman, should we take the last set of questions? We have one hand up and we have a couple in the
take the
chat.
last set of questions and take some from the chat. Let her answer those questions and then we can close.
Okay. We have Mr. Otaji Faye. Please go ahead and ask your questions. And then we have two questions in the chat as well.
Why don't you ask the questions in the chat first and then Otaji can speak also.
Okay, so the questions in the chat, I'm even more concerned about the problem in Southeast Nigeria in terms of how to resolve that. Then the second question is, my question is based on education. The education in Nigeria, to some extent, has been bastardized, especially the primary and secondary, which are the basics. What do you suggest that the government do? Those are the two questions from the chat.
Thank you. The first one is not really a question, just expresses a concern, I think, about the situation in Southeastern Nigeria. Is there, you know, so, I mean, where there's trouble, there's need to be concerned about the entire nation. I mean, who in Nigeria feels completely at ease at this time? If you have to travel, you know, people are afraid and wondering about, you know, what will happen to them along the road. So it's not only in the Southeast, although I understand why that person is drawing attention to the Southeast, like, for example, the destruction of INEC offices and so on there. It is concerning. And one would hope that the security agencies would really work to bring that under control. Education, that's a sector, you know, that needs for us to just declare a state of emergency, I think, because we are not producing, well, I was going to say we're not producing people who can compete well. But then when you think of all our graduates who have been snapped up, by foreign countries and so on, you start to think maybe Nigerian education is not as bad as people have been making it out to be. But there's no doubt that in terms of the infrastructure in our institutions, in terms of the quality of teachers, our teachers need to be constantly. You cannot be in the teaching profession and not be up to date. It has a direct impact on the students. So yes, it's not primary, secondary, tertiary. We need a real effort to be put into revitalizing education in our society. In the primary school, for instance, I think there's just too much rote learning, and not a discovery of the world, discovery of how things function from early childhood, introducing skills and abilities, measuring skills. We don't measure well. You enter many homes and you see that the wall is not straight. The corners are not properly aligned. Doors don't fit in properly with their frames and things like that. Those are basic issues, I believe, about our education. We can't measure in specific terms. So all of these abilities we need to teach our children right from an early age. Thank you.
So we had Otaji. Can you ask a question? I've asked you to unmute.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. So I don't have a question. I actually just want to make a comment about the people that have stolen Nigeria to where we are today. And the comments that have been made about leaving the shop open and chasing people who are stolen. I think Nigeria still has the potential to create much more than what has been stolen so far. And thinking about what he said, it will probably be a waste of time to start chasing people when we can hit the ground running and to create more wealth that can surpass whatever has been stolen today. So I think that's what he meant. Even though I agree there should be accountability, people need to give account of what was kept under them. But in real terms, we can create more wealth for the nation by harnessing all the potentials that is in Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay. Majon, okay, you already addressed those two questions. We have two more hands up. Do we want to take those, or do we just want to end with this last set? Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, take them quickly.
Okay, so Noyo and Shirley Boy, those are going to be the last two questions. So please go ahead and ask your question. Keep it brief, please.
Good evening, all, and good afternoon, wherever you are. My question has to do with the Southeast, because it's very troubling what we see happening there. The attack on citizens. They can't go about their businesses. They're not allowed to go out to do the things they are supposed to do on a daily basis. We just see a lot of video coming to us here in the United States or abroad about things happening there. It's really very troubling. Obi is from the Southeast. I want to ask, is his campaign or his group, are they making any efforts to reach out to those opposing groups in the Southeast to talk to them, to collaborate with them to ensure that that region will be safe? Because if I see people in Edo State and other parts of Nigeria are going out in full force to support Obi, so what is happening in the Southeast? That's very troubling. So I think that your campaign or your group should be addressing that issue, finding out who the key actors are, the leaders, and attempt to bring them on board so that things will go well in that region during the election. Thank you.
Shirley Boy.
Okay, I think that's taken.
Yes.
Seems to be.
Sister Remi, since you have been a teacher for 30 years, how would you respond to people who say that teaching should be done in vernacular, like in Igbo, in Yoruba, or Hausa Fulani? How will you encourage them to say that perhaps English should be the national language and not Yoruba and not Igbo? Thank you.
Is the Prof around?
Yes, please.
Yes, she is.
Knocked off momentarily. Yes, please. So what's the last question, please?
Those were the two last questions. You already addressed the first
I
set.
did not hear the Shirley Boy question.
You said, how will you encourage the use of vernacular in teaching in our schools in Nigeria, Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, and all of those?
Okay. Let me thank the people who have asked those questions. The question about the Southeast, I believe that it's very, very concerning, and the Obidati team definitely is not unaware of the situation in the Southeast, and I'm sure in whatever way they can engage the people there to bring about change, that definitely will be done. In terms of using the mother tongue, what I have advocated for our educational system is bilingualism. And indeed, that it's not novel. People my age probably started primary school being taught in their various mother tongues, or the language of the environment where you were schooling, so that if you were in the Western region, you were taught for the first 2 years in Yoruba, while you took English as a subject, and then a transition into teaching you in English was made. And I think we didn't do too badly with it. So I am one that is very much in support of having every child be competent in their mother tongue as well as in the language of instruction. There's no running away from English in our environment. But we should not neglect our own languages. And the human being has the capacity to learn several languages and have competence in them. I know people who speak, 4 or 5 languages fluently. I'm a linguist myself. And actually what I advocate is that if you want to be a participant in global issues, the exchange of global ideas, you need at least 3 languages. Your mother tongue, the language in which you express your feeling and where you are really at home. The language, the official language of your country, if you are in Africa, so either French or English or Portuguese, whatever it is. And then another language that you choose, for developing your intellect, engaging with a wider audience around the world. Maybe a language that you use for travel. If you have business in China, then you pick up Chinese or whatever. So those are my ideas regarding language use. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the last set of questions. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
I think we've done well, and I want to thank Prof very much for, first of all, being bold enough to step out and step into the political ring, and also maintaining to a very large extent her integrity and her dignity, and being a beacon of light to, I'm sure, quite a lot of women and young women and all that, and so on and so forth. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for the courage. Maybe I should really be thanking your husband, to be honest, for his long suffering and for his tolerance. So I thank myself as a husband on his behalf and all the husbands in Africa. And
I believe he's online. He's hearing
so
you.
I really thank you. And I say, Buka and Gosa to him. I know it's not easy at all, but I know it's believing in your wife and so on and so forth. So thank you, sir. And thank you, Prof, for everything. We need to do a lot more in Nigeria. We need to step out a bit more. We need a few more voices speaking truth to power and speaking loudly and letting people know that Nigeria belongs to all of us. And nobody should come around and frighten or threaten us or want to walk over our feet and our heads and think that there's nothing we can do. So I just want to encourage you and your family and everyone, and to thank you very, very much for being on the program. I will find time to engage with you personally on a one-on-one basis, and then see what else to do going forward. We, part of African Leadership Group, is a search for credible leadership in Nigeria, a search for voices, a search for process, and a determination to encourage people, both locally and in the diaspora, to get involved and not to be afraid, and have many more good people involved. And also to do leadership evaluation and say who's been a good leader, who's not been a good leader, and so on and so forth, and take it not just in Nigeria, but across Africa over time. So thank you very much for everything. God bless you. Have a very wonderful evening. And I want to thank everyone, Jumoke, Sonny, for being on the platform, and everyone else, Olabambo, Good Shepherd, Noyo. Please, thank you for coming, and so on and so forth. God bless you all. Have a very wonderful evening and a beautiful weekend ahead. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. God bless us all.
Yeah, one more point though. The ALG has a lead.
Auntie Jumoke, you are muted.
Yes, so that I wanted to just introduce the leadership assessment tool, and maybe get Prof to also, maybe I'll send it to her for her to also look at it. I think she's still on.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I put the link to the leadership assessment tool in the chat, and also the criteria on how we developed that leadership assessment tool that helps the electorate take a critical look at their candidate. using those criteria, whether it's on integrity, their vision, their character, their education, and their capability to lead the nation. So please take a couple of minutes to look at it and then share with your contacts as well. This is going to be an interesting election, but we need to select the right leader for Nigeria. So this tool just helps give that guidelines so that we're not voting along ethnic lines or religious lines. Thank you. That was it. Thank you, Ma. I'll send you the app, Ma, the link to the app.
Okay. Thank you. I very much like that.
Yes. And for everyone else is in the chat. I put it in the chat, so please go ahead and click that. Thank you.
Okay, God bless us all.
Thank you. Have a good evening. God bless.
Thank you all. God bless you.
God bless. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.